Well, Matthew Bryza is a former US Ambassador and Deputy Assistant Secretary of State. He joins us now in the studio. Thanks so much for coming in. Does this bode well for the Middle East peace process, in your opinion?
No, not at all. It seems like this is yet another instance of the Trump administration showing utter disdain for expertise, really for anyone who knows anything about anything. And I think the plan is to maintain as much control in as few hands as possible. Jared Kushner wants to be in control, so he gets his younger deputy to be in charge of the peace plan.
And that's what it is about. It's to make sure Jared Kushner really does have control over the process, because why? Trump can't just make him U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East?
Yeah, right, he could. It sounds like he just is, Jared really is de facto the person, and he needs somebody to get on a plane once in a while and do the legwork.
Right.
And it's very similar. I mean, the timing, I think, is quite interesting with Bolton's firing, because Ambassador Bolton, his whole approach had been to destroy the normal process that involves all the pieces of the government coming together. The one that I worked in for all my career and at the White House for 4 years and helped run. He has destroyed that so that, again, as much power was in as few hands as possible, all at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Okay, so it doesn't bode well having this 30-year-old assistant to Jared Kushner now and supposedly in charge of the Middle East peace process, but you are slightly more optimistic on the fact that Bolton's at least out?
I am allowed to say that now. I no longer work in the government. Yes, very much. He's a caustic figure. And I remember when he was at the State Department as undersecretary and I was there a couple levels below him, the people who worked for him, some were absolutely miserable. His methodology is to use bureaucratic firebombs, basically, to leave a scorched earth with more space for him to do whatever he wants to do or can do. And I think that's how he got in big trouble with President Trump in the end. He seemed to be going around not only the rest of the bureaucracy, but President Trump as well.
Well, it's worked for him in the past. I mean, he did get his way, much to the detriment of probably the entire planet with, the Iraq invasion and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, how much of this, as far as the Middle East peace process is concerned, Bolton, no Bolton, the new man in charge of the Middle East peace process, does it actually matter anyway if Benjamin Netanyahu, for example, stays in power and he's got Trump's full support and he can kind of act in contravention of international law? It kind of makes you wonder, what is the point of a peace process when one party is only going to do what they set out to do regardless?
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head. I mean, again, look at the timing, not so much with Bolton's departure, but with Netanyahu's announcement the other day that Israel is going to annex the entire Jordan Valley. I mean, that is the end of any peace process. So what do? You don't bring in a super high-level person with diplomatic experience to preside over a diplomatic corps. You bring in somebody with no experience.
Right. One final question then. I mean, where does this leave Iran? Again, that's more the optimistic side of Bolton being out. So he was very hawkish, to say the least, on Iran. So do you think the threat, that looming kind of threat of these men in charge threatening military action on Iran is kind of dissipated? Or
I very much do. I mean, I thought when all those crazy things were being said by Bolton about sending over more ships and suggesting the use of force, that he was the one trying to get President Trump to go to war. And it appears to be what the case had been. Now, again, just yesterday or day before, President Trump announced, okay, we're going to keep the sanctions on you, Iran, but maybe we'll go along with French President Macron's idea of giving Iran 15 billion euros to get around the impact of our sanctions. Sounds bizarre at first, but in a way it's kind of a sophisticated bargaining attempt, provided that President Trump has a vision of where he wants to go and isn't just purely lobbying things around in a tactical way.
Right. Okay. Matthew Bryza, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks so much for coming in, as always. We appreciate it.